Okay, it is currently Monday, September the 2nd of 2024, and we're just going to dive into the charts here, look over some charts, look over BTC, look over where we're at, etc. And then after that brief overview, we will essentially just give kind of the strategy, not strategy, but kind of the plan for the week, etc. Before we get into anything too serious, I would love to again shill the usual things. So you can ignore boomish.org. I've been inactive on there. I'm trying to revamp it and just kind of see what direction I'm going to take that. So you can leave that for now. There's a newsletter you can sign up for future reference, but for now leave that. Then there's a free Telegram. You can just join that. Link is in the bio. Trade alerts, ideas, whatever, all in there. Then I have my Twitter, so that's where I share practically a lot more than anywhere else, except YouTube is the biggest alpha spot to be. So subscribe here as well, because this is where I actually drop all the alpha. And then on Twitter I try to, but of course writing long ass tweets the way I'm yapping on YouTube about concepts and trading, etc., it's just not going to be the same. So YouTube has the most alpha. And finally, I would love to see you guys move over to WooX. Now, again, I think it's the best exchange. I think a lot of people are going to agree with that. Some of the best traders I know have moved to Woo from other exchanges, and I think there's a good reason for that. And that covers everything I really want to say. So, yeah, let's dive straight into the charts. So this is the weekly chart here for BTC. We're still kind of just slowly drifting down. And it's been the case since about March. We've been just in this range drifting down. And honestly, this range thesis is kind of invalidating slowly, because this range, even though we're playing around with the range levels, it's not quite as accurate anymore, right? So I'd rather say some type of flag, and this seems more accurate right now. And you can keep kind of both in mind and draw levels out for this. But again, if we go down to the daily, you can kind of see the way we interact with this has been pretty solid, right? We've pretty solidly interacted with the mid-level of that range. Well, that's not the drawing tool. With the middle level of that range, the EQ running along diagonally here, and then the bottom of that range, we've been playing that 1 tap, 2 tap, 3 tap, breakthrough, 4 tap, essentially. Maybe on lower time frame we can see that. But yeah, so we could argue this is also levels you want to be interested in. But again, if we just delete this, these range levels have been pivotal and have been continuing to play pivotal roles in this entire range, right? So that's that 60k level over here, that 65k level, and that 72k level. So these levels have all been relatively pivotal. But again, I think it could be interesting to look at some type of diagonal structure here, draw this out, see how this is as a potential range structure as well, or rather flag structure, or whatever you might want to call it. That covers the higher time frame essentially. We've just been, the bull trend in my opinion is still intact. Nothing has, we haven't broken down these levels. Nothing has shifted fundamentally. So I would continue to look at this continuing to play up. This is certainly potential. But again, if we do start breaking down to these levels, I think the final line in the sand sit at 45-ish, whatever level this is. So yeah, that's going to be 42, 45, whatever. This level is going to be pivotal if we do break down to here. If we break under this, we just continue to trend down, right? It's kind of how this level was in the previous bear market or previous market structure, right? We didn't break down below that level. We had this chop up here, like we have this chop up here. We revisit it. If we do revisit it and kind of build structure and then continue to trend up, I could see a similar thing to this building out, ta-da, and we go up here, blah, 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 right? Again, and then finally here, we come back down to that level one last time. So let's say we do this. We come back down to that level one last time, and we do break under it. This is where I think the bear market starts, right? So this is that line in the sand. Of course, that line in the sand can move up if, we do this. We set up another one of these levels here, and we essentially, chop back down, and then that new line in the sand becomes here, or this will become the new line in the sand. But for now, at this market structure, for me, it's right here at 45. So higher time frame, that covers everything. Let's dive straight to the 4-hour. Structure has been building poorly. Again, I'm going to delete the diagonal lines, but This is that bottom of the major range level, right? Here sitting at 60. And then I drew out this miniature range, which ranges from, 58 to about 62. And then the EQ sitting at 60, which is the lower bound of that higher time frame range. So something to understand, what I talk about a lot when I talk about it is ranges within ranges, or ranges outside of ranges, or ranges on different time frames. That's kind of the fucking point. This range is essentially a range that is merely showing us on the higher time frame how we're trying to resolve this bottoming pattern at the bottom of this range, right? So if that makes sense. Again, this miniature range I drew out here on the 4 hour, so that's top of the range, bottom of the range, middle of the range, and bottom of the range, is essentially just a range that is trying to show us how we're going to resolve our interaction with the bottom, which is 60K, of the major range, right? So that's all this level is doing. It's setting up a new range at that bottom of the range, of the higher time frame range, to show us, okay, how are we going to resolve this? Is this actually going to chop back up and reclaim these levels before we go up? Or is this going to keep serving as resistance as we play around with this level before we just continue to break down and revisit these lows in that kind of pattern that I spoke about last week or 2 weeks ago? So I hope that makes a lot of sense. I'll cover ranges again shortly. And just do a revamp of all the TA videos I have. Again, there's a bunch of TA videos you can check on the channel where I cover ranges, liquidity, everything essentially, and you guys can go over there, check that out. But that's enough shilling for this video, or for now. So that's lower time frame, essentially what we're doing. Again, I don't like how this is structuring. What I do like is these equal highs being built up, kind of to me showing we want to retest this level more vividly, or more avidly, so to speak. Here at 59 is the highest volume node, so this is kind of the point of control right now. And from what it's looking like, despite it looking kind of like it's trying to round out, I wouldn't be surprised for this to pop back up here and test this level one more time. Now, if we get rejected off this level again, I would start being like, okay, this is not looking too good, and I definitely see a breakdown coming in. In contrast, if this point of control and this kind of just shifts and we reclaim kind of this level here, and we flip that and start flipping this EQ, I could see this retesting this top of the range, taking some liquidity out, and seeing how we can interact with this top of the range level, and ultimately the 65K middle of the higher time frame range level. It was a perfect rejection we got from here, so this is a very strong resistance level now. But this kind of, I'm sorry, sometimes I look at my chart and I'm baffled by my own drawings. So for now, again, the key things are going to be this level right here, right? So that's 59. These equal highs, I want to see them taken. I want to see this level 59 actually flipped, coming back to like 60, flipping this. And if we can flip this, I could see this going up to 62.5 quite easily. Again, that's just a flip of the lower time frame EQ, or middle of the range, and then we can come back up, visit this. This point, I would, depending on the strength, look for a short where the fourth revisit, or whatever we revisit this, I do think we break down. But again, I am relatively bullish. Higher time frame, like higher time frame, by which I mean weekly, etc. I still think structure is intact, so I wouldn't be too confidently shorting this. But yeah, I had a short open from somewhere up here, so I think somewhere here, once we broke back into the range, did decently, did well, but closed from here probably to here or something. But yeah, so that covers essentially lower time frame BTC, and then let's cover ETH very quickly. Looking at ETH, we have the same thing essentially as BTC, just much less pretty, right? Higher time frame, we can go up to the weekly, and we can see that even on ETH, the structure is still intact, but ETH is kind of at that line in the sand, right? Whereas Bitcoin, I said 45K is that line in the sand. ETH has already revisited that line in the sand at 2,300. So this is where I want to see that ETH strength. If ETH comes down here and just starts bleeding and continues to bleed out from here, I'd be very concerned at how this chart is building up its levels. So we go up to the daily, or down to the daily rather. Here again, this structure doesn't look too beautiful. I do kind of like the fact that we're getting that rounding pattern that is showing us, okay, we want to revisit these lows, take out all this liquidity, and then build a structure to actually come back up. That is the only thing I'm liking about it, that usually these type of bottoming structures actually work out relatively well. So then we go up to the 4 hour and just kind of look at that lower time frame structure that we're building here. I had this range kind of drawn out on ETH, which was, the higher time frame range again sits with the bottom of the range at 2900, EQ at 3400, and the top of that range at 4000. That lower time frame range again sits below, but instead of ETH where the EQ of the lower time frame range serves at the bottom of the higher time frame range, here what we're getting is the bottom of the higher time frame range serves as the top of the lower time frame range, which to me again signals overall weakness for ETH. So top of the range on the lower time frame, middle, and bottom, or middle EQ. When I say that, it's the same thing. So actually, I think I said that wrong, didn't I? Yeah, this fucking level isn't even included in the range. This is the top, this is the middle, this is the bottom. Apologies about that. But generally but again, that it comes down to the same point where if this range is top, middle, EQ, or EQ bottom, the issue becomes that Bitcoin's range is sitting here relatively. That's a lot more strength and structure wise than ETH is, where it's ranging and it's built up this new lower time frame range under the higher time frame range, not even interacting with this range level whatsoever, right? Because that lower time frame range level is sitting here at 2900, and we're not even tapping that since August, since we broke down from it completely, early August. So diving back into Ethereum, we saw relative strength here over the last week, and it didn't do much. Similar to BTC, it went up to the top of this range. BTC came up to a much higher level, which was the EQ of its higher time frame range, and ETH is fucking far removed from that, right? So relative weakness continues on ETH BTC is the whole point of this. But we took out this liquidity, which I like. I wouldn't mind seeing this, so I wouldn't mind us coming back up here, properly retesting all these levels down here before we build a structure that comes back up and slowly reclaims that level, similar to what I said on BTC. As for levels I would want to see reclaim now, the most important one is going to be, the first one essentially is going to be 2500, so actually flipping this and us building a structure that is essentially above this pivot point, above these wicks, and above these pivot points here where we see this come. This is the first level that I want to see a structure build up. The second more important one, and this one is actually very important because this is the current point of control, but the second very strong level is right here, sitting at 2600. And if we can flip this, or even just rip through this and come back up here, interact with this level and flip that bullish, or at least even interact with it, like I'll get into that in another video, but even interact with it, and that's where I kind of want to see this top of the range taken, and a continuation to the top side. That covers everything for ETH and BTC this week. I hope I kept it relatively short, but I think it's like 13 minutes regardless. So that covers ETH and BTC, and then we'll dive into alts in the next video. I appreciate you guys as always. Check out WooX, check out all the other stuff. Again, it's on the screen now. It has always been a pleasure to talk to you guys, and again, it's a pleasure today too. Thank you guys.